Alright guys, so yeah, craziness, mega crowd not very happy, a bunch of crazy news coming out, really wondering how this is gonna affect the markets. However, here we are, this looks like a B2 top, and you're still holding the 9. However, and anything can happen in the shit show before Monday open. But as of right now, Brodog waited until Saturday to say that tariffs are back on the EU and Canada. And that means probably China at some point, which will obviously lead to lower prices. Now, so far, the UK is the only one with an actual trade deal, kind of, right? And here you have Besant, spilling the beans. I mean, they have been touting in the next 48 hours and next week a cavalcade of trade deals, but it seems like everything is tied together and nobody's really interested in that sense, because as of right now, midterms are toast, obviously, and the presidency is probably going to go to the other team unless something spectacular happens, right? Since people still vote with their emotions. Here you have the sports calendar. These are all Fridays. This was last Friday. Worst case scenario, you have a whole week's worth of sales. Now, why is this significant? Because you have OPEX on Friday. If the market doesn't know what it's to do, this is very important. Listen to me. If the market doesn't know what it's supposed to do and how to position itself, it will go into what it knows best, which is fade the whole OPEX week. Now, this is very important, since it is of my opinion that we are following the 2020 script here to a T in the market. Let's go back and look, shall we, at that, because it's very significant. Let me clean up this chart here a little bit, since it is the MA video after all. Let's go back to 2020 and what happened after 2020 before we went into the so-called bear market. Here we have 2020, right? Okay. Most of these red downward weeks in this whole uptrend, most of them, perfect example here, July. Yes, glad I found this. Okay, perfect. See here, July, this is the week we're about to trade. Look at this. Okay. And then Tuesday low. So you've heard me say, I don't know, countless times, more times than the Epstein files have been mentioned in the media, that, you know, we're gonna get the bad guys supposedly. You've heard me say, I don't know, maybe a OPEX, post OPEX Tuesday bottom. That theory was derived from this time period. Okay, and in my opinion, this is what we're following. We're probably right here, honestly. Or we're right here. So, and I will talk about why I think the market's gonna go to beyond 700 on SPY. I'm like 90% sure that it will. Okay, and I'll get into that. And it's your job not to get fucked here. So all of these pullbacks were kind of around OPEX, right? But let's choose this July. This is the perfect example. Here's the 50-day moving average. Now let's say you're sailing here at top. You're at let's say 438. Let's just roughly say 438, and it's a Thursday. Would you think that by next week's Monday you would be at 424? Probably not. Keep this 50-day moving average in mind. We're going to skip the present time. Okay? You guys ready? All right, here we go. First of all, let's take Golden Cross off. Okay, we all know that. Here's the 50. Tariffs, blah, 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 blah. Liberation Day. Eat shit, craziest trading period of all time. Full ripper. Watch this. You ready? Look at this candle and look at that candle. Neither candle, let's zoom in just to prove a point here. This is very, very important for you. Figuring this out and watching this will make you serious money. See how neither candle touched the 50. We gap up, we chop around, and we're gone. February 26th. Okay? Watch the 50, comes down here. Doesn't touch there. Start rallying. We gap over the 50. We have yet to touch it. We haven't touched it since February. Okay, 50-day moving average. Now we got this golden cross. Okay, great. Do you think it would be crazy now that if this GAN box here is correct, and those of you who've started using it knows that the 0.5 is super fucking important. Would you think it was crazy if in this period here we could get some volatility and the price actually fairly quickly could be into the 75, could be into the 0.61, drops down to this gap? Even though price could be dropping, the 50 could get up here while we either gap fill or keep this gap for later. Here we're here. If we now come down here, then do a double bottom, rip into, people thinking, hey, tariff deals are gonna get made, right? Because the date's August 1st and Trump promised he wouldn't move the date. No tariff deals. The shock is going to be absolutely fucking monumental. Then maybe do some deals and rip up. This here in late October, this is a new Fed chair. No doubt about it. Okay? So that's kind of like the overall plan. So right now, even though, yes, look, I didn't buy my YOLOs for Monday. It was Obama and Hillary. First of all, let's just get that out of the way. That wasn't me. I think next week there's a good chance we just fucking eat shit. Okay? Because, look, if you do not survive this scandal here, if you don't survive it, Nobody is gonna be doing any business with you because they know you're out, and they know your boy, whether it's JD or Little Marco or even fucking Lion Ted or whomever, is not gonna be the next dude. It's gonna be basketball playing Gavin Newsom. He's the Democrat that's been out here saying release the list. Okay, like, obviously he is on the list too. The point is, it is them versus us. Doesn't mean you can't do good within the club, but let's be real here. Unless you're willing to get... That's the thing, people think these fuckers are caught off guard on some island, okay? No, you gotta willingly go there. You don't think successful people know what's up, okay? In that sense. So, once we touch the 50, that's your signal when shit looks really fucking bad later on in the year. That's when it's go time. I think this gap up here off of the 200, that's where all the boys who are like, I don't know, bro, down here jumped in. Okay, literally. So with that said, what are we gonna do next week? Well, glad you asked. Here's the thing, it's very rare to get a reading. I posted in the Full Moon Circle. I've never gotten this reading before. It is absolutely crazy. Monday, early low, but it's a unclear pattern. Tuesday, early low, but it's a unclear pattern. Wednesday, early high, but it's an unclear pattern. Thursday, early low. Saturday, early high. Or Friday, early high. And then Saturday is a trend change. The weird thing here is I also have a trend change for this Saturday. I've never gotten trend changes on back-to-back Saturdays. Okay, that's what's kind of really weird here. I would be very surprised if we're following this seasonality. I think this seasonality might take over in September. I do think we get a pretty drastic dip here. And sometimes these algos, obviously they're pre-programmed, so they jump between chart to chart. I think there's a good chance we deviate somewhere in August to this chart. This has a shit September. I think we're going to have a great September because the market is going to be driven by the tariff trade that I've said for weeks now. The tariff trade's back. Well, yeah, it's fucking back, all right. We also have the whole Fed Powell carrot. And we have major political dropping of the ball. Some people still hold on to 5D chess. I don't think so. I'm like, if I was doing that, I wouldn't be preparing for a dip. Why Bitcoin is ripping now? They said framework last week. You got fuck ton of it, right? I'm being sarcastically. You got nothing. This remember in late April, we started ripping on this, and then we've just gone up and up and up. I still think that narrative that has to do with the bond market is more realistic than just framework. Okay? Remember that. This thing, there was hope here. How are you just gonna dip this thing down? If they manage to maneuver that move here before September, of course the market is gonna go higher. But now we have uncertainty. So I would look for the VIX to be making some moves here, and clearly, I mean, it is fucking coiled. And if we're realistic here and we look at this thing, it is ready. If that was a 5-minute SPY chart, I would be hammering the dip here. That does not mean that I'm just gonna stop buying the dip on SPY and start trading VIX calls. Why would I change something that works for me? I just need to be aware, right? So let's say we're gonna go into a downtrend market. Okay, let's look here at the hourly. MAs always work as, you know, I love the hourly stove. If we're coming down here like that, and I can catch a cross to the upside, I'm still gonna play it. Same thing here. Then you let it bleed, and you hit it again. Boom. You can still trade calls if you're religious with the stove in a downtrend. But if we are going to shit for a week here, which it looks like there's a good chance of, then yeah. But let's zoom in on this hourly pattern. So there's your diamond, right? Boom, boom. Unless we miraculously fill this gap on Monday or gap over it, you have a clear hourly 9 crossing down. Okay, just like here. However, this is a complete fuckery move right here. So we still gotta be vigilant. Everybody and their mother is going to short this market, and rightfully so. That doesn't mean anything. They've been doing it since 481. Okay, so I would scale back on any swings this week. I would hit heavier base scalps. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try, you know, which is hard for me because I always want to call out plays to, like, you know, Riot last week or Coinbase or, you know, even a few good meta trades or just SPX. I always want to call them out, right? So I'm gonna try to be a little bit more selective. With that said, if because listen, the market doesn't fucking think we're gonna roll with any heavy ass tariffs on any country. It doesn't think we're gonna be building Apple factories. This is where the news broke about us slamming EU with tariffs. We've already on Bitcoin taken that back. So pre-market is going to be very interesting. Now let's say Trump's in hot water and the market starts smelling that bro dog is not gonna have, let's say it starts smelling that he's gonna be a lame duck for the latter half of his presidency. You know what it's gonna do? It's gonna go back to the Biden market instantly. Okay? And it's gonna front run an exit liquidity move. If Trump is able to remain in power and swing his pimp stick, then Powell's gone and rates are coming down and the market's gonna rip. So don't be too bearish. You're gonna have a monster rally end of the year. Now, earnings start next week. TSM's gonna be good. It is hard to play. Heading into earnings season, it is very hit or miss. People love to play them because there's a 33% chance that you hit big, right? Kind of. It can either be an IV flush, you can miss, or you can hit the move. Banks. A week ago I said banks are probably going to sell. Well, what did they do? They sold, but it never lost the daily 21. It stayed here. If banks start selling this week, it is still your best short. JPM is going to absolutely implode. Down to the daily 50. We already covered that. Okay? This still hasn't had its golden cross. And this week you saw a couple of days, Dow Jones days, they want this golden cross on here. that could even save the market a little bit. So let's keep those Dow Jones stocks like Costco and McDonald's. Let's keep an eye on them. The BABA trade is interesting. Tech, however, this Namo looks shit, like it wants to come down. It's curling down. It's lost the 50 RSI. It's coming down. So not huge on tech. However, TSM is going to be huge for chips. Look, there was fucking no one on the internet that caught over 400% on Nvidia on Friday. We were there. We did it. It was freaking awesome. Not only were we in it, but we hammered it off open. So I'm going to be looking for these type of moves, because what I do not want to do is be in this market we had on Friday. Oh my God. Yeah. It looks good, but like, who wants to trade 20-30% moves? That sucks. You want to catch the big moves, right? Or a nice trend. So, a little bit of education. How do you technically find out if it's a trend day? Well, perfect example. Chart, 15 minute. Okay, great. How does every orb calculate itself? It does this. It takes the levels from the first 15 minutes. Oh, we broke out. Boom, catch the move. Okay, let's go to the next day. Here's a little bit of education. Okay, here's the first 15-minute candle. Tests up there again. Oh shit, lost it. Trends down. That's what we could be doing. However, then you find days like Friday that are just a complete mess, because you're not really fucking going anywhere. You're never really breaking out. You're just stuck in, oh, we're under, we're above, we're under, we're above. So we're gonna try really quickly to identify these days this week. Out of all the tech names, this still, even though it's at all-time highs, just intrigues me. Okay, it just intrigues me because sometimes when it moves, it's just bar none has the best premiums. Okay, so let's keep an eye on Meta. Nvidia probably won't touch it unless there's China news, because we still haven't heard what Jensen and Xi talked about in China, but it's coming. Both individuals know they'll be on the scene way longer than Trump, so it's more important to listen to what they are going to say. Abgo finally hit 280. Do I want to play it? Not really. SMCI lagging all of these fuckers. Okay, SMCI, the whole scandal went away. This thing is ready. It should be up here if everybody's gonna use their cooling racks, right? News from EU, they pre-ran the tariffs. They slapped a bunch of taxes on these big companies like Visa, PayPal, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so it brings us back to BABA. Look at this chart. What is this even? You will never find a chart that looks like this. Just gapping all over the place. However, this is obviously a bearish signal. If this is a fake breakdown of the 200 and China in fact is not slapped with tariffs and we get a nice deal, this shit will rip to 130 in no time. So this is gonna be one of the main watches for the week. Great trades on Coinbase. Obviously could have been swinging it for a while, but like then, you know, it kind of got the week and a half eating up premium. So sure, if Bitcoin continues, yeah. But again, you got OPEX, you got a bunch of news, you're gonna have tariff news. Do I think Microsoft is just going to, like, we need a retest somewhere? Okay, this is almost moving up too slow. Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, so it's moving up, yes, but it's so slow that everything's decaying. So I'd kind of welcome a dip. Tesla, I don't know, man. It looks like it's ready again here on the MACD and the stove, and the daily RSI has snuck up here to 50. So W, very possible. Apple has moved up a little bit, but still haven't. Look, it's the same price it was in April, so it hasn't gone anywhere. I'm looking at that stuff, right? Trin, decent, okay, fantastic. As far as the gamma is telling me that we can go all the way down to 606, and we're not gonna go over 630. Okay, it ain't happening. And where was that dip? Hold on. Well, let's just start with Monday, right? Monday, we closed here. If it's a bad day, probably sees 618. Under 618, shit is hitting the fan. Tuesday, shouldn't get under 610. Wednesday, shouldn't get under 610. Okay. Thursday looks bullish as fuck. Let's find out why. Maybe it's TSM or maybe there's data. And Friday has that. All right, where's the calendar? Mr. Calendar. Monday. Nothing. Gonna be news driven. Then you get China numbers. Tuesday, CPI. All I'm gonna say is, listen, party people. If we are to continue the narrative that we don't have any inflation and that Powell is insane, we need to come in cool. If we do, rippy, rippy, rippy. Okay, now, true inflation. True inflation says that it didn't give a fuck about the May uptick, but it says a little bit of an uptick here. I don't know what to believe since everybody is, you know, shooting the shit. But anyways, if it's hot and you go into a narrative that we have no inflation, we gotta get rid of Powell, but you're showing inflation on the eve of these tariffs, that's not good. If you're showing no inflation, market goes up. Okay? Obviously. So that's Tuesday. And even if you drop on Monday, maybe you get a pop on Tuesday. I don't know. We'll have to see what that real-time data tells us. Live on the Moontrain. Wednesday. See here we got some G20 fuckery meetings, right? Okay. Then we got PPI on Wednesday. Fed speakers. And Thursday we got a TSM. We got retail sales, jobs, Kugler. Mortgage rates, Waller, everybody's out. We got Japanese inflation. Woo! Friday, building permits, Michigan consumer sentiment. Why is this marked red right now? It hasn't been red. So, lots of shit show going on, guys. Let's just try to snipe. I think it's a snipe week. I think volatility is going to pick up, so let's snipe. Okay. With that said, guys, love you all. And let's have a good week. And again, I'm going to be doing base hits that are heavier. Okay, God bless.